Hi, guys, and welcome to today's episode of Coffee with Bobbi. Today, I am joined with Quint Parsons III. He runs the Fallen Tree Wood LLC, where they transform fallen trees into beautiful pieces of furniture. He hopped around from industry to industry for a couple of years until eventually finding his passion and created a business he loves with woodworking and epoxy resin. Quint, welcome to the show today. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me on, Bobby. I'm really excited to be here and tell my story.
Oh, I love it. I'm so excited to dive into this. I am a fan of DIY projects and building, and I've toyed with epoxy resin in the past as an art form. And this is a medium that is becoming more popular. So tell us a little bit more about like how you got started into it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I started my woodworking journey under my dad. I worked under my dad, who was like a master carpenter, and for a few years, and kind of absorbed everything I knew or he was offering. And then growing up, I always loved art classes. I was always big into art. So like you said, I hopped around from industry to industry. And then I discovered this ecopoxy. A lot of guys in Canada actually use it. And I was on Instagram and I realized that if I could incorporate the epoxy into the woodworking and combine it with the artistic side that I kind of grew up with, that I might be onto something. And it kind of stumbled from there. I worked out some flaws, but it kind of manifested into this beautiful kind of business that I got going on today.
Oh, that's amazing. So I know you said you use fallen trees from the area. How do you go about finding these? Because I know for a lot of people, they're like, Live Edge is so beautiful and has a story of its own, just like each of us has a story. How do you come up with these pieces?
For sure. Usually it's word of mouth. I'm at the point now that I have a few friends that they know what I'm doing and they have friends. And if ever a tree falls, especially if there's a big storm locally, my phone's always blowing up the next morning. They're like, got a tree that fell down. And I just try to do what I can to go salvage it. Sometimes they're too big and I don't have the means to get it. But that's really how I get all my trees is just word of mouth. And I go salvage the riverbank sometimes in the local areas, but that's really how I just come up with them, just word of mouth and just knocking on doors. I actually left a note on a house down the road. There were some fallen trees in their yard, and I just left a note on their door saying, I'm interested, give me a call. And that's really how it's been going.
That is incredible. So a lot of people would be like, if I received a note on my door that and they saw that a tree that had fallen, they're like, you're going to make something beautiful out of it and take it out of my yard. It's like a no brainer. Like, I don't have to pay somebody to come over with a chainsaw and cut it to pieces. And that it's going to something and create
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
That's,
Usually, it's funny that that's mostly a reaction I usually get. They're like, oh, you want this? You're gonna get it too? Perfect. So I usually try to make them. I'll make them like a serving tray. Just so they have the piece of local wood that was off their property, and they always usually like that. Pretty good, deal.
oh, definitely. Because as we both know, live edge wood pieces are expensive. But if you're doing the hauling off, if you're doing the sourcing of it yourself, you've got yourself in a niche of business in essence too, where you've got it from the ground up. The story of where this tree came from. And
Yeah,
not only that side of it, but also as a business side of it, you've cut your cost way down.
yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely sometimes where, if there's like a special request in like a specific size, I'll have to go to I have a local dealer who deals with slabs, and I'll have to buy one when, in certain situations. But as of now, um, I have, like I was telling you earlier, I have a stack of wood at my house from a couple of years ago that because it takes a few years to dry. So
Hmm.
this summer coming up, I'll have a bunch of product to use. But that's also a stumbling block because I'm a little guy, so I don't have a kiln or anything. So all my wood slabs are just naturally dried, outside. And so that's where we're at now. Yeah.
And how long do those slabs normally take to dry? For somebody who's totally new to this industry and they're like, okay, so you picked up the tree, hauled it back
Mhm.
to your shop, and then you get it plain or not, would you get it milled
Yeah.
next?
So you'd get it milled and then you'd stack it up with dunnage so it's nice and level. And then they say it takes a year per inch if you're drying it naturally. And a common thickness that a lot of mills do is 3 inches. That way you have room to make your furniture. So it takes a good 3.5 years before you can use a piece of wood that's totally dry.
Okay. So this is
Yeah.
not a quick process. You have to be committed to the art and committed to the process to make it happen. How long
Yeah.
have you gotten into or been doing the epoxy style with the live edge pieces?
Yeah. So I started my first piece that I did with epoxy in it was 2018. So I guess, almost 3 years now. And I remember, so you have to build a form and everything to contain the epoxy. And I thought I had all the research done. I was all gung ho, I ordered the epoxy, poured it all in there. My very first piece came back in a couple hours and it had all leaked out. It was
Oh
all over
no.
the floor. And I was like, oh my goodness, well, what's going on? Um, I did some more research. I asked for some help with some more experienced guys, and I figured it out the second time. But yeah, that was my first piece back in 2018, and it was a catastrophe. The first one.
Yeah, I feel so bad for you because I know just from playing with this epoxy on a small level. And for those of you who have no clue what it takes to make these beautiful pieces of river tables, or if you've seen a lot of people doing right now, the beachscapes on
Mm,
wood and so forth, and they're using heat guns. If you make a mess with epoxy resin, you've got 40 time or 40 minutes to like
mhm.
clean it up or it's a sticky hard mess. And
Yeah.
it like I just feel for you because I know when I played with it a couple years ago I was doing more of it, and I was
Mhm.
doing it at home in the kitchen and I lay out plastic and everything. And I'd
Yeah.
still have like resin residue on the kitchen sink and things
Right.
like that. And everybody would be going, why is it so sticky here? Bobby, were you playing today? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
It's actually funny. So the epoxy that I use in particular, um, so it's called eco-epoxy, and it's manufactured in Canada, and it's completely, eco-friendly. So it's made from eggshells, soybeans, and flowers. So it takes 3 days to set up. So that's the big challenge is you basically have to make a watertight form to hold the epoxy for up to 24 hours before it even starts to set up. So that was where I went wrong the first time, because
Mhm.
I thought it was going to set up real quick, and
Okay.
it turns out it takes so long to set up because it's all natural ingredients.
Mhm.
But figured that out, and we've come a long way since 2018 for sure.
Yeah, your pieces look so pretty. And if somebody's listening to this and is like, does an epoxy table look like? And a river table, go check out Quint's work. Like it is so beautiful. Um, what's sort of your creative process with it? Like, how do you decide how things are going to be placed together? Because it is an art form. It's not like, here's a piece of wood, let me put it in a mold, let me pour some epoxy in it.
Yeah, it usually stems off the piece of wood in particular, whether it be a lighter or darker wood, or there's a lot of elements that come into play. So if it's an end cut, then the grain's going to be like a circle, rather than if you slab it out, then the grain's straight. So it really all depends on the type of wood. If it's a commission piece, obviously you want to work with the client and make their needs priority. but the times that I get to make one personally, it's really hit or miss up until I pour the epoxy. It's kind of like a game time decision, in
Mhm.
terms of color and stuff like that, which is like exciting and part of the reasons why I love it so much because you can't really go wrong. It's just a lot like artwork, you know what I mean?
And like you said, you have this art background and you love to do art. And now you get to go into the workshop, you get to essentially play and create more pieces that end up in somebody's home that they absolutely love. What's been one of your like favorite pieces that you've created?
Sure, absolutely. So I actually have one that I did this past April. It was a dining table for one of my clients in Sanibel Island. And for the listeners, I live in Maryland on the East Coast, and so I drove it there personally and installed it. It was 16 hours, I think. But the house that I was getting, that it was she who ordered it, was an artist herself. So she had her house set up in a way that it was kind of like an art gallery,
Hmm.
as you would go in. And the table itself just tied everything together. I used cherry, which is kind of like a reddish orangey wood, and then I used white epoxy. So the contrast of the two just set off, and she had white countertops, and a lot of things just came together really well to make it my favorite. Including the installation, how smooth it went. That's also part of the reason why it went so well, or went my favorite. But
Uh-huh.
definitely the Sanibel Island table.
I saw that one and I was like, this is so, so pretty.
Thank you.
And as a design lover, I'm just like, these are masterpieces. It's no longer just a table in somebody's home. Like it is artwork that somebody now gets to eat dinner off of every single night and realize this.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it's always a journey. There's always some new challenges during the project, but it's always so satisfying, to talk with the client, get their reaction and their feedback.
Oh, I can imagine. And what have been some of the challenges for you as you've gotten into this space and developed over the past 2.5, 3 years?
Sure. So just recently, I'd say the past year, um, one of the main challenges has been with making the charcuterie boards, which is it's a good challenge, which is I've had a lot of orders. So I've had to figure out ways normally that I can produce more in at one time, which has been a good challenge for me. I think it's something I needed, and I was kind of starting to settle, almost find that groove.
Hmm.
But so just being more productive and making the best out of what I got is has been a challenge this year so far.
And that sounds sort of like a good challenge,
Yeah,
in this time where we've had to take a step back and retool how we do everyday things, or we have more time on our hands, or we've got different things in flux. And then you're trying to figure out, you know what, I'm growing. How do I take this situation and make the best of it and become more productive?
for
Which
sure.
is definitely one where I can see it now, like the look in your face and the energy. It's like, I've made it. Like, I figured
Yeah.
out how to pivot during this time and look at where we're at today. And these holiday orders are complete and they're all going out.
Yeah, just the other night, I told you earlier that I kind of closed the books, so to say, for this year, and it was just a big relief. A lot of people helped me through the process this year, but yeah, it's definitely a big sigh of relief. I can kind of relax the next couple of days, get straight for the new year and everything.
And then hit the ground running again. And that rest is so necessary.
Definitely.
I want to dive into this because I started to notice this, that you have been waking up super early in the morning with this new, is it a new morning routine, or have you
Um,
been doing the 4:30 a.m. wake ups for a while?
it's been about 8 months, a year. I've been waking up about 4 o'clock, 4:30. I've been trying to at least. Yeah. It's
How have you found that as a difference? Because I'm going to preface this by saying, you know, my brother, like we love to work out and fitness and stay motivated. And it's been one of these challenges of,
Mm,
for me, like I used to always be traveling. I don't know where I'm moving to in January in the new year. So I'm like, well, I don't want to pay for a gym membership for like 2 or 3 months when I'm only going to use it for one. So
right.
my brother is like, okay, well, you can come with me to the gym and work out with me.
Mm,
And I'm like, okay, this is like essentially personal training because he's a former cop and
right.
loves to work out. And I was like, oh, what's the catch? And he's like,
Yeah.
I go at 5 in the morning. And
That's
I was
about
like,
right.
okay, well, challenge accepted. Let's try this. And for me, it's been amazing. How has it been
Mhm.
for you? You've been doing it longer than a couple of weeks. You said 8 months
Yeah.
plus.
For me, like probably 8 months ago, I was at a point where, I was kind of off my track. I didn't have an established morning routine, and I couldn't prioritize, certain projects. So what I found with getting up early is it's just for me, it's all about uninterrupted time. And so from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, whether it be working out or doing reading or journaling or whatever it may be, I just find it that uninterrupted time is crucial for me in the long run. Whether it's, like I said, making a power list for the day, just for me, I can prioritize the day a little better getting up early.
Yeah, and it just for me too, it like sets your mind right. Like you have this foundation, it's quiet. I don't know if you live with somebody or not, but like I'm in a house of normally anywhere from 4 plus people. And it's
Mm,
like this is the one time that I can find quiet before anybody else wakes up. If I'm at the gym working out, come back, have coffee, be able to write. And it's
absolutely.
just this moment of clarity.
Yep, yep, for sure. It's, when you set a time to wake up and you wake up at that time, it's you're starting the day off with a win. And for me, that's what it's all about, just little wins all, throughout the day. They end up and then, you won the day. You go to bed, you won the day.
And then you're ready to do it again the next day and when that day and it just keeps adding up.
Yeah.
Have you noticed like even with prioritizing to-do lists and things like that, have you noticed that your productivity and energy level has shifted throughout this?
I would definitely say so. So specifically in the mornings, because in the past I'd spend half a day, doing nothing. I'd go in the shop, and mess with this, mess with that, not really finish anything, you know what I mean? And I found with getting up early and really starting the day off right, I'm able to just dive right into something. One, because I think I've already been up a little while and I'm awake, my body's ready to work. But for sure in the mornings, I get a lot of work done in the mornings, and in the afternoons I'm kind of game planning for the next day.
And that is amazing that you've not only gotten to this place where you're like, okay, business is going, it's chugging along, it's thriving, and you found out a way to prioritize it. But all the while, you've done this amidst a pandemic and like this sea of negativity where you could be like, okay, I don't feel like it today. It can wait. The wood's still going to be here tomorrow. This order doesn't have to be done for another week. But then you flip the scripts, which I love. And you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, well, here's another challenge. Here's how I'm going to start trying to combat it. And
Mhm.
look at me now. I've done it.
Yeah, and it's definitely been challenging, especially trying, connecting with clients. Obviously, all of that is over the phone now, and and sending pictures rather than a lot of the local clients could just come to the shop, and they could see how the process is going. So that's been a huge, huge challenge, but we've definitely overcome things for sure, with the help of a lot of people. My dad helps out a little bit, but yeah, definitely getting through it.
And what's a piece of advice if somebody out there is listening and they're like, I've gotten all these ideas, I don't know how to execute on them. And but I know I need to do something, especially as we go into this new year.
Sure. I think that's a really good topic, especially this year. I think if anyone has a niche, you know, they think they have an idea that they want to start, just the only way to start is to just start. Just put anything out there, you know, put 10 things out. If the 11th thing is the best thing, then it's, you know, you succeeded. You know, just start, and then you'll see once you come to start, it all manifests. You know, you can refine along the way. You'll figure out you don't really like this path. You're gonna venture towards this way. So I think the biggest thing is just put the first foot forward, and just start and just break down that first wall, because that's the hardest part, I think.
I would have to agree with you so much on this one because it's one of these things where your mind plays a role and it's this huge role of going, you know, well, what's other people going to say of me? The fear of judgment. What if I'm doing something completely different from the norm of what I used to do? And now I'm doing this. What will they say? Is it even going to be good enough?
Hmm.
XYZ. And looking back, like even with this show, it's been a huge learning curve. But if I didn't take that first step, or you didn't take that first step of like, let's try epoxy, but
Hmm.
who knows if it's going to mess up or, what's going to happen. Like we
Yeah.
all have those mishaps and then you get back up and then you start again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's all about getting back up and just trying, because people are going to talk. You know, that's never going to stop. And social media is never going to stop. So you know, it's easy to say, oh, don't let people, you know, don't worry about people think, because we all, you know, care about what people think about you. You know, it's hard not to. But just know, you know, do it for yourself. You know, if it makes you happy, that's really what it's all about, and that's all you really got to worry about. You know, at the end of the day.
And then for yourself, as we dive into this a little bit too, did you have to overcome that, once you first started showcasing your epoxy tables of like, what's one of my best friends going to think, or somebody down the road who knows me, or.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely at first, you know, before I kind of had the idea all the way wrapped up, you know, I'd tell my friends like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna start making furniture. You know, they're like, what do you mean, like sofas? And then I'm like, no, you know, like tables and charcuterie boards. They're like, well, what's a charcuterie board? What's, you know? So there was definitely probably a year where, you know, it was just like, oh, you know, it's Quint's hobby or whatever, until, you know, I started making some sales and my social media page started growing, and then everybody knew what a charcuterie board was. You know what I mean? But at first, totally, you know, no one expected me to be a woodworker, that's for sure.
What did you do before this? Because you said you industry hopped.
Yeah, so like right out of high school, I did landscaping, so I did hardscapes, like outdoor fireplaces and such. And then after that, I enrolled in a welding course and got certified. It was 2 years, honestly, which was like a big direction. I thought I was going to be a welder. You know, I was going to join the union. My uncle's a welder. That might be another story. But so I did 2 years of welding, got certified, and then, you know, bailed. I was like, I don't want to do this. I just know I don't want to do it. I don't know why. And then that's when I worked under my dad for the next 4 years and fell in love with woodworking and the craft in general. And then after that, you know, I stumbled into the Fallen Tree Wood Company.
I love that story and how you just like followed your path of, you went into it, into the welding aspect, and you're like, I think this is for me. I think I know this is what I'm doing. And then you felt that intuition of like, I'm glad I learned it, but I
Yeah.
know this isn't right. And I'm not going to follow in other people's footsteps and them tell me this is the right path that I need to go in because I got certified. I'm going to
Hmm.
take a step back and go a different route.
Yeah. And it all comes back around, you know, because now I don't have to outsource any of my frames for my tables. You know, I weld those all in house, which a lot of shops don't do that or don't offer that, custom welding. So it's kind of all comes back around, everything works out.
And it gives you an added artistic flair to your pieces, I feel like, instead of, finding somebody who's already going to have prefabbed steel or iron pieces or whatever material that you're using for legs. You
Mhm.
can work with a client and be like, oh, you want something special? Like,
Yeah.
here's what I can offer you that you're not going to find from Joe down the street or somebody else online, because I actually do this and here's my favorite. And this is what I foresee for this piece.
Yeah, the clients definitely enjoy, working with me through the whole process because they're basically designing it. I'll kind of send them some pictures of some good wood that I think's nice and ready to use, and then they pick the color. And like I said, we'll go over the base and whether they want a custom rack for their keyboard or just a little rail for their feet because they like to put their feet up. I can just do that for them. And I think in the long run, I think that's what'll continue to get business. The little things like that.
And it continues to set you apart from other people in the industry and just showcases like not only the detail that you have for your artwork and these furniture pieces, but also like the level that you take your pieces to. It's no longer just a dining room tabletop. You have the whole entire piece, you're hand delivering it, you're traveling across the country and saying, here you go, this is my finest work. I believe 100% in it, and I'm going to personally install it for you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely hands-on with the whole process. Um, but sometimes it's definitely hard to see pieces leave, when I make them, just because I have so emotion wrapped up in them, honestly. And but through the whole process, I'll take pictures and everything like that, and to give them to the client so they can see how it was made. But at the end of the day, when a piece leaves, and a client's really happy, it's kind of bittersweet because there really is so much work that the client has no idea about that I go through. But it's always worth it when the client's happy.
And how long does one of your larger pieces take for somebody who's listening is like, I thought you just poured epoxy in it and grabbed some wood. Besides the drying of the wood, like say a piece of wood is already dried, how long does it take from there? If I came to you with a conception of an idea,
Mhm.
and how long would it take to get this done?
So from start to finish, if you came with me with an idea, or you're like, I want this color, I want this size, it usually takes 3 to 4 weeks. Now, the Sanibel Island table that I did was kind of rushed because I just the client was wanted to get it to the client, and I did that one in 20 days. Now, I kind of devoted all my time to it 24/7. I wouldn't really do that again, but it takes 3 to 4 weeks usually to get one finished out and then finished. And once I finish it and put the base on, I like to let it sit for kind of like 3 or 4 days and just let it acclimate. Let the screws settle, let anything that needs to happen, and then it's ready to go to the clients.
That is amazing. And are you doing this 100% by yourself, or is your dad helping you, or do you have other people in the shop to provide extra hands, or is it sort of
Um,
like a one-man show right now?
yeah, at this point, it's basically just me. My dad, he like I said, he's a carpenter, so he has his own contracting business, but he definitely helps when I need help. And if there's a project too big like that table, I couldn't flip that one by myself, so he had to help me flip it. And I'm probably definitely under justifying him. He definitely helps a lot. He's definitely around. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm in his shop that he kind of let me take over, which is I'm really grateful for. But it's just me and my dad, really.
And that's wonderful that you can like both have your own side hobbies, or I don't want to say side hobbies, jobs. You both have your separate jobs that you're doing, but it's under the same house, and you can go to him as not only a dad, but also have this mentor of like, I don't know about this piece. What do you think? Or, if he needs extra hands on this, and you can be like, have you thought about it like this? And
Hmm.
have this sounding board mentor
Yeah.
and all in the mix of you going out and doing something completely new and different.
Yeah, I definitely have a huge advantage, I think, which I'm really grateful for, because he is a master carpenter, and he's the type of guy that, he's really, really dry. He's just going to tell you how it is. So, I'll be in there in the shop working all day, and he'll come in and just be like, that's not the right way. You got to do it different, or it's just not right. And, I listen to him every time because he knows a lot more than me. So I definitely have a huge advantage in that way, which like I said, I'm grateful for every day to have him there.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise you'd be like drawing at straws, going like, maybe this will work.
Yeah.
I could
Well,
try to get
he
context.
definitely lets me learn the hard way. Sometimes, most of the, but every once in a while he chips them.
Yeah, I mean, we all need to learn sometimes the hard way to sort of like learn how to figure it out. But it's always nice when
Absolutely.
you do have, somebody who can call on and just be like, okay, like, what do you think? Here's what I've got so
Yeah.
far. I'm When you work with clients and building these tables and all of these design pieces, are you letting yourself still have creative liberty with different aspects of it?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of the times, the clients, they're not really too familiar with what I do. I find, like, most of the time, they go through my page and they see the pictures, but they don't know exactly what they can contribute in terms of like what they can pick. So a lot of the times they're like, I'll leave it up to you. They'll say, I want an end table. I want a darker color wood with blue. And then I kind of go from there. And, whether it's black walnut or you can get a darker color maple. And then in terms of the color, you can do a flat or you can do metallic. And they kind of usually leave that up to me, which is great. But like I said earlier, you can't really go wrong, with stuff like this. It always looks pretty.
For sure. And, just from playing with it, there would be days where I just like come back and I'm like, this was so much fun. I don't care what it looks like. I had
Mhm.
this moment of like, oh, it's beautiful. I got to play today. Do you have
Absolutely.
moments like that where you're just like, I get to play every day I come in to work?
Yeah, for sure. Um, just a couple weeks ago, I was flattening a table down on the router sled that we built, and it was some hard work. It's like relatively hard, in terms of the process, one of the harder steps. And I was like, man, it's hot. I don't want to do this, blah blah blah. But then I took a step back and was like, I'm doing what I love. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I'm blessed to have this opportunity. So for sure, definitely feel lucky to be going, and just like I said, some days I don't have a project to build and I'll just go in there and make something, anything I want, and really lucky to be able to do that.
What has been with that? And, you're in these moments of like, I'm so lucky I'm to this place, even though it's may not be where you foresee it to go in the future. What's some of the things that keeps you in check to like continue growing? Or like, I know we were
Mhm.
talking and you said social media has been really great. Are you doing collaborations? Like, where do you see the next steps going for you, especially as we come into a new year?
For sure. I think that's a really good question. So next year I have some big plans. It's for me, it's all about long view and, big starting with the end in sight. And for me, my goal next year is to have a storefront in Easton, the town I live in, with a shop in the back. So, I'll be doing all my work in the shop and then have a storefront where I can sell from and be the number one. I want to be the number one storefront in Easton, Maryland. And that's what keeps me going is the long view of where I want to be, and not really where I think I want to be, where I know I'm going to go, kind of thing. And that's what kind of keeps me going every day.
And let's dive into this of, where you are going versus where you want to be, like this idea. How
Yeah.
did you go about this? Because a lot of this is 100% mindset
Right, right.
of
Yeah,
like, I want to be here, but it's like still this far fetched idea hanging out in left field. Whereas if you say, this is where I'm going.
yeah. It all comes down to mindset, which the last couple of months actually I've dived really deep into mindset and like kind of like self-discipline stuff. But for me, when you say like I know I'm gonna have the number one storefront in Easton next year, your mind remembers that. If you say I want to have the number one storefront, what's really telling your mind how are you going to do it? Your mind's a tricky thing, and self-consciously it kind of holds us back. So what I try to do is just say like, oh, I know I'm going to have the number one storefront, or I know I'm going to have a monetized YouTube channel with 50,000 subscribers and all this and that. And comes to, a lot of it is manifestations. I practice manifesting a lot, which I'm a true believer in. And that's kind of what I'm doing there. I'm just saying my goals until they're true.
Same. I'm right there with you. Like when you speak something, you believe it. And
Yeah.
when you put it into that perspective and you're putting it out there, then it keeps you on track. Like it may not be 100% how you said it, you
Yep.
know, or how you first envisioned it, but it's going to come back and it's going to come back in a way that you're like, wow, this
Yeah.
really did happen. I got to this point and I'm still going places. And I see it with you, and I know it's definitely going to happen. Like the work is beautiful, first of all,
Thank you.
got the mindset, you've got the trajectory, you're learning how the business works and going through it. But I also see this as, like I see it as like, yes, you're going to have a storefront in Easton, Maryland, but you're also going to impact so many more people who see your work and are going to call you up and be like, hey, Quint, I've got an idea. I've got a project in mind.
Mhm.
You want to build me something in Texas?
Right, right. Yeah, for sure. I've already, like I said earlier about max effort. It's for the people listening. Corey G is the owner of Max Effort Muscle Fitness. You can look him up online. It's like a supplement company, and just through social media, they're a really big company, and they hit me up because they noticed my work. And like I was telling you earlier, they want me to come out to their warehouse and build them a big live edge laser engraved sign. And it's things like that where, I never really thought woodworking would take me that route in terms of like befriending these people in the fitness industry. Now I'm buddies with these people and taking me to Florida and now I get to go to Ohio. So this past year for sure has been a game changer.
And it's one of these years that I feel as a whole, like even though we've lacked connection physically in person, everybody's more apt to like have conversations, want to connect, and genuinely take an interest in what other people are up to. And that's one of the reasons why I started this is like I miss that.
Hmm.
And I'm getting to connect with you in Maryland. I've connected with people in the UK and Singapore yesterday. Like the world is so big, and we've
Yeah,
sort of like hit this breaking point of, in the past, like in our minds we would think, oh well, yeah, we could FaceTime, or I'm just going to wait to take a business meeting and hop on a plane to get there and be face to face. Whereas now we just press a button and they're like, I can connect with so many people and get to a new spot that I never would have imagined a year ago.
yeah, absolutely. And with the whole virtual thing, so like just a few months ago, I did my first Zoom call ever. My parents, they wanted to hop on, and I was like, all right, let me download Zoom. I've never done this before. hopped on Zoom, we chatted, we chatted with my grandparents. And so as bad as a year it has been, I definitely found, I've broken ground in ways that I don't think I would have if events hadn't played out had they did. So which is very interesting, I think.
And I can totally relate. It's been one of these years where it's like everything that you originally had plans at the beginning of the year, like last January, February, it was like throw it in a ball, paper wad, and throw it
Yeah.
out the window, set it on fire with a rocket. You're never getting it back, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Kiss it goodbye.
yeah, it's gone. It's long gone. Whatever you thought was written down there, it's not there.
Yeah.
And it's been not only a huge learning experience, but I have found it's one that's gotten us back to center, and that has brought us back to this point of like, what is important in life?
Hmm.
Where do you really foresee yourself going, and not wanting to go, but actually going there, like you had mentioned,
Yeah.
and getting this perspective of like maybe what you had been doing in the past, if it was something different, yes, everything happens for a reason, but now is this time that it's a turning point and you
Hmm.
got to roll with it. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind and,
For
wait
sure.
in this pile of like muck over here.
Yeah, I definitely think this year was a big year and it forced a lot of people to kind of pivot. And it forced a lot of people off their routines, which is definitely uncomfortable for a lot of people. But I think it was a big wake up call for a lot of us to realize, the little things in life that we take for granted every day, how fast they can be pulled away, and before we know it, they're gone, and we miss them so much. And in the past, we had these luxuries, and we just oversaw everything and took everything for granted. So I think it was definitely a huge wake up call, but I think for the most part, everyone's going to benefit from it. I think it's going to be a good thing.
I completely agree with you. Everything happens for a reason, and you pivot and you turn and you see all of these incredible blessings that have come up from this year. And as we get ready to wrap up the show, I want to dive into this. And it's the one question that I've asked from the very beginning, is what's one of the biggest blessings for you?
One of the biggest blessings for me, and it might sound cheesy, but this year is my girlfriend. So we've been together for 3 years, but this year with being on quarantine, my girlfriend and I have connected in a way that we haven't in the past because we were forced to. And we both grown as individuals and got to know each other on different levels that I think we just may not have if things hadn't played out. So I'm grateful for the connection I've built with my significant other, honestly.
Oh, I love it. It doesn't sound cheesy to me at all. And for people
Right.
listening who are like, oh, these people are just in great relationships and it's so easy and all of this stuff. Because I know uh, people probably get sick of me mentioning my boyfriend in a lot of these episodes and online, and they're like, oh, she's got it so good.
Right.
But they don't know the backstory of when you like previous relationships were absolute train wrecks, and you're
Mhm.
like what it's gotten to be at this point. And that value of like developing a relationship, and like you said, it was like forced connection,
Yeah.
and you grow together, you learn together, and you can adapt and
Hmm.
see it as like a new way of connecting and be grateful for all these moments, even though at times you might be going, how in the world did you ever think that, or
Yeah.
the other moments where you're like, I love this, like why haven't we been doing this for years now,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
but it's not cheesy at all to me. And I want to ask you one more question on that. So did it force you guys to spend more time together than what you had in the past? over
I
this?
don't think it necessarily forced us to spend more time together because luckily I was still able to go to my shop. I was luckily enough to be able to do that. But I think it forced us um, to connect in a way like with our routines and kind of intertwine our lifestyles to work the most way for both of us. So we're at a point now where I wake up, do my routine, she does her routine, and I'm in, she's out. I come home for dinner. We're synced, and I think we established that over the past couple of months. Just being around each other so much, and we're just really doing it, I guess.
Ooh, I love it. It's in flow and it's going, your terms, it's in sync. And when life happens like this, you're in this state of flow, the creativity's flowing, you've got the connection flowing in life and relationships, and it just continues to build and build and build. And it's
Yeah,
going so many more great places, more than you can imagine, Quint. So I'm so
thank
excited
you.
to see it and watch it. Where can the listeners find more information out about you? Website,
For
social
sure.
media?
So right now I just have an Instagram account where I post most of my content, which is the Fallen Tree Wood Co. Is my Instagram handle. And the beginning of the new year, I'll be dropping a YouTube channel, which will be like 2 to 3 minute loud in your face videos of me making projects. And so that's pretty exciting to look forward to.
That is amazing. I'll make sure to put the links in the show notes, as well as wherever you're watching this, to go connect with Quint on Instagram. And once that YouTube channel gets launched, it will also be in the show notes here. I am so glad that we connected, Quint. Like I said, work's amazing, so beautiful. Keep on keeping on and doing amazing pieces of art. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bobby, for having me on. I think what you're doing here is really cool because I miss coffee shops. I miss connecting the small talk. I miss the smell. I miss all of it. So I think it's really cool what you're doing. And I'm happy to come on any other time.
Oh, thanks so much, Quint. And for all of those who are watching or listening today, I hope you have an incredible rest of 2021. If you're catching this in 2021 or the future, I hope you have an incredible day, incredible week, and just live life with inspiration and passion that keeps you going to your next place in life. And this has been a wrap of today's episode of Coffee with Bobbi and Quint. Have a great day.